When police confront dangerous situations that threaten life and public safety, they call in a team of dedicated and specially trained elite officers called SWAT. Special Weapons and Tactics. These are their stories. Be advised that this podcast is for a mature audience. Some episodes may contain profanity and graphic descriptions of violent crimes. Well, Victor Avila, the Agent Under Fire author about getting ambushed in Mexico by the Los Zetas Cartel, is back for part 2. I want to discuss now, when did you leave ICE? We know you left in a big controversy because you brought legal action against them, and you were later, it was confirmed that everything you said was correct by the Office of Special Investigations. So when do you leave? And I want to get into what you're doing today.
I officially retired. I took a medical retirement in May of 2015. That was after exploring the separation from the agency. My agency didn't want me back. I was the last one to figure that out, that they didn't want me back at work. They had canceled my law enforcement call sign. They had erased my email. They had picked up my guns. And I had to come to a very strong realization that I wasn't going to work there anymore. And so I wanted an early retirement. They denied that. And I took the medical route and was granted a medical retirement with the help of a congressional inquiry. But I did. It separated. It was a good thing because my career ended the day I got shot. I just didn't know it. It took years for me to figure it out that I wasn't going to go back to work as an agent.
So there was a specific congressional inquiry into this incident?
No, only into my retirement, because
right.
I sought the help of a congressman who had straight knowledge about what happened from the very beginning, and he helped me retire.
Is there still a truth that's unknown from what happened, or did it all come out with the investigation?
No. There's many questions unanswered that to this day we've wanted the administrations to give up the documents. To this day, have not given up one.
And that's where you're still seeking justice.
Absolutely.
For your partner who was murdered.
Yes. Now I can share with you today that, and this happens. This is part of the criminal trial. The defendants were extradited. The 2 of them went to trial. 5 of them pled guilty to murder, attempted murder of an internationally protected person, and weapons charges. And we never agreed, the Zapata family and I never agreed with the sentences, but the 5 that were pled guilty were sentenced from 35 years down to 12 years. The one that got 12 years will be released this month. And
mandatory release?
Yes, like done, like because it's a federal, so he's going to be out. And the 2 that went to trial were sentenced. They lost, obviously, and were sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences. But they appealed their sentence, and the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals last year granted their appeal and dismissed the murder charge. Yes, you just heard that right. They dismissed the murder charge, the statute that was used to convict these guys. The D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals says that you weren't unable, the federal government, the U.S. federal government wasn't allowed to use that statute because the murder happened extraterritorially, meaning it happened outside of the United States. Even though we had prior other circuits in the U.S. use that statute successfully. And so all of a sudden, as you can imagine, there's a blow to the Zapata family and me, that there's no one, as I speak to you right now, no one is in custody for the murder of Special Agent Jaime Zapata. They're in there for the other charges.
And so I, as an American, if I or a member of the family is murdered in Mexico or overseas, and they bring them back here, they're not going to try them for murder. They can't. Is that
right now they can't? Stands? And the good news is that I actually got off the phone today with a senator's office. I've been working on this, saying, okay, if that's not going to, we have to change this law. So with the help of the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, and I got on the phone with several congressmen and senators, and we changed the law, and it already passed the Senate. And I got a call of, you have good timing on your podcast, because I got a call today. They're going to be presenting it to the House very soon here. And what's the most ironic thing to me is that it's probably going to pass under the Biden administration, which I never
Yeah.
thought that would happen, but it's probably going to pass. And this new law protects the agents that continue to serve throughout around the world.
Mm-hmm.
But what we added is not just the agents for a murder charge, but also for assault of them or their family members. We're giving them real
Okay.
protection. And so we're looking forward to that law
Mm-hmm.
to be passed. We're very happy about that passing. Unfortunately, it's not retroactive to our case.
Right.
We still have to go back to DC. They're going to be resentenced, and we're going to beg the federal district judge to resentence them back to life. But now they're not looking at a mandatory life sentence. They're looking at up to a life sentence. And you know what up to means. It could be anything.
Is there a bill number on this yet, or who's the sponsor for listeners?
And I should know the
Whose
bill,
office
but
should
I'll
they
tell
call?
you. But I'll tell you the name. The name is the Jaime Zapata and Victor Avila Federal Officers Protection Act.
Oh, great. So you take a medical retirement in 2015, but now you're back on the border.
Yes.
Why?
Well, I wrote the book, and I wrote the book about the story of my career in detail. And the second part of the book that I refer to as a manifesto is all about border security. I lost a lot of my identity. People started referring to me, this is the guy that got shot, this is the guy that survived. I go, wait a minute, I'm a pretty good border security expert, and I know a lot of what I've done in my career, and I've seen a lot, and I want to write about solutions that I see in my career, what I would do. And I put those in the book. And I talk about the wall. I talk about sanctuary cities. I talk about asylum. I break it down and what solutions we could bring. And so I said, I'm going to go down there, especially after Biden became president, and this crisis is beyond a crisis, a disaster down there. My first trip was down to the Rio Grande Valley in McAllen, in Mission, Texas, in March. Then I went to El Paso. Then I went to Hudspeth County. Then I went to Del Rio, and I've been back to Del Rio. I just got back from Del Rio last week. Because I want to know exactly what's happening. I talk directly to the agents, to the sheriffs. I get briefed by them exactly so I can be a voice for them, because these agents can't talk. They don't allow them to communicate exactly what's going on. And let me tell you, there's a lot of intricate details. A visit by Kamala Harris to El Paso, Texas, the city, is not a visit to the border. And I want people to understand that I'm born and raised in El Paso. I know the city like the back of my hand. And I could go to El Paso, Texas, and not go to the border. And that's exactly what she did. And so I go down to the border. I go to the river. I have videos of myself standing in the Rio Grande River where there's almost no water, showing how porous the border is, how wide open it is. And then on top of that, under these policies, we're letting people in this week alone. We at the gate that I stood at last week in Del Rio, I couldn't believe that we're opening the gate of the wall to Haitians and Africans, and we're talking about single adult males as well, not just family units. Come on in.
What triggered the crisis? What set it off?
It's very simple. It was the crisis. A lot of people think it started January 20th. It actually started November 4th.
And is that the comment about the invitation?
You hear it straight from their mouth. I've interviewed people from Venezuela, from Ghana, from Uganda, and they say, because President Biden opened the door for us, because President Biden invited us to come. They're no longer say, we're coming to work, we're coming for a better family, a better life for our family, which some of them still do. But that used to be the reason. I've worked in this immigration all my life, practically all my adult life. And that was one of the main reasons. That's what you would hear. People want to come over here and do this and do that. But now you just hear them, well, because I want to be in the United States. Or, well, because the Biden administration is going to give me something. Or because they invited me. That's a very different shift. You're not coming over to provide anything for the country. And on top of that, we have a lot of criminal element coming in and using and taking advantage of these policies to gain access into our country.
Well, when Kamala Harris went to El Paso, didn't she try to take it back in a sense?
Yeah, that you're talking about that she taking back the
don't come.
Yeah, the don't come, because she had said that in Central America. I think it was in Guatemala where she said it, and that was she got hit hard for saying that. They have basically these individuals all have cell phones. They're all connected to social media.
Yeah.
They know exactly one word is said and it's sent like a wildfire, not just to Mexico and Central America, the rest of the world. I was in Del Rio last week, and the sheriff is briefing me, and he says they've encountered people from 83 different countries. And that's just to give you an idea that it's not just these four countries that we're talking about. 83 different countries are coming in through Del Rio, Texas. And they're not going through they're going through this treacherous journey of going through the desert. No, they're flying in. They've only been gone from their country for 2 days, and they're flying in. The treacherous part is making contact with the cartels. Now that, I do tell you, now they are putting themselves in danger. Now they are being raped, the women are. The men are being used to transport drugs. They're separating them from their children. The cartels are the ones that are doing the real separation of the kids and the trafficking of the kids. You're going to give us your child, we're going to smuggle you, and we'll reunite you in the U.S. Now we have 15,000 unaccompanied children.
But they're coming, and they're not going to get across unless the cartel says they can get across.
Absolutely 100%. You will not come through Mexico and say, I'm going to go by myself and I'm going to get through and I'm just going to go into Del Rio through the river. No, you will pay the fee to the cartel.
Compare it to the drug trafficking for the cartel. We know how they've amassed fortunes. Are they making that much money on the human smuggling?
According to the Valverde County Sheriff, Sheriff Martinez, last week, in Del Rio alone, they're making $25 million a week. In Del Rio alone. That same, if you go a little further south, in the McAllen area, they're making $14 million a day. This is the amount of money that these cartels are seeing. It's a tremendous amount of money. And they don't care if you turn yourself in or if you to Border Patrol or they smuggle you. But right now, the number of smuggling cases have skyrocketed. Because I was there 6 weeks ago. And then I went last week and I asked the sheriff, you saw me here 6 weeks ago. I want to know what the number one change has been. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? He says, hands down, Victor, it is worse. When you were here 6 weeks ago, now on top of the people coming in that are turning themselves in, we have had a tremendous increase in stash houses, human smuggling cases where these individuals are being interdicted because it's full of state police. I mean, if you go down to Del Rio and go down, you'll see, you can't turn your head and not bump into a state trooper from Texas, Florida, Ohio, Nebraska. They're all down there, over 450 of them.
So where are the federal officials, ICE agents? Can they not turn them back? I mean, and I've seen the videos of cartel members hooded on our side of the border, shuttling people across. How common is that? I mean, it just doesn't even seem possible.
I'll put it to you this way. It's upside down and backwards. It's what it is down there. Our Border Patrol agents their authority has been taken by the Biden administration. They do not arrest anyone. Now, they encounter some of these individuals and they have a criminal history, they'll get sent back.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's their punishment. There is no prosecution of these individuals for being here illegally.
So I can understand people with the humanitarian part of people are fleeing authoritarian governments and despots and what have you, and economics and stuff. But how much of it is that they're trying to find a better life coming?
Well, I'll put it to you this way, and I'm a compassionate person, and I'm a humanitarian, and I want to be able to help these countries, but we're at a point in time where that help has to come to the U.S. first. And for some reason, the burden has shifted all on the U.S. Why isn't the burden placed on their countries, their home countries, to deal with the core, right? As you hear Kamala saying, we're going to get to the root causes. Well, the root causes are not applicable to our asylum laws. Now, they come over and say, in Guatemala and Honduras and El Salvador, there's a lot of crime. The cartel killed my brother, and that's why I'm fleeing. My answer to them is, we have a lot of crime here. A lot of it. Go to St. Louis. Go to Chicago. Go to Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Go to LA. Go to New York. We have a lot of crime here. As a matter of fact, we have a surge in crime in our country. And that if you look at the asylum criteria, nowhere on there does it say you get to leave your country and seek asylum here because your country has a lot of crime. That you have to have been persecuted by your government for your religious beliefs,
Right.
membership of political organization, religion, and so they just do not qualify, and that's the point. And so the Biden administration has completely ignored those our own asylum laws, has ignored our own immigration laws, it's lawlessness. They've ignored all laws completely, which makes no sense.
Well, and clearly the cartels are making a new fortune out of all of this. And well, why? Why doesn't Washington realize that you got to do something about the cartels?
Absolutely. I think the designation of them as foreign terrorist organization is way overdue. I know the prior administration was getting close to doing it, but you saw when that President Trump said, I'm gonna designate them as FTOs to Mexico, or I'm gonna stop the remittances of the money going back, which is close to $30 billion a year that illegal aliens send to Mexico. We're going to stop that money from going there. It'll put Mexico even worse conditions if that money stops going there, and or sanctions or tariffs to the trade. And so, what did Mexico do? Say, please don't do that, and they started protecting their southern border, and we saw that happen. But that took a lot of negotiation. It took a lot of time. It's not, people say, why don't they just put the remain in Mexico policy right away? It's not like, it doesn't work that way. It was a negotiation that came with a lot of, conditions attached, and it doesn't exist anymore. It's been lifted. And so Mexico sees there's no consequence for them because the cartels control it. The president of Mexico just seems to not, his hugs, not bullets policy obviously does not work. He wants to give them hugs instead of bullets to the cartels. He completely ignores the level of violence that's occurring in these towns. And if you don't have their own government addressing the issue, how do they expect us to do it?
Let's pause for a break. We'll come back. You were just talking about the president of Mexico and hugs, not bullets. But what's happening to these people? I mean, there's a humanitarian crisis, but what are the cartels doing to them? It's not good. I mean, you read about what's happening to women. We had the case of a cartel member throwing a baby into the Rio Grande. What's the level of human suffering being heaped on these people by the cartels?
It is horrific. The cartels, the rapes are real. The extortion is real. The kidnappings are real. The cartels treat the human beings as a commodity, like the table that is in front of us here. They need to see how many tables they fit on that pickup truck or in that car. So I have videos of rollovers right now because they've seen an increase of vehicles that have picked up illegal aliens and are transporting them through these counties. And because there's so many troopers on there, they're picking them up, and then they fail to yield and they roll over and crash, and you have dead bodies on the street, and that's been happening on a weekly basis over there. So it's putting these people in danger. The stash houses, they put them in these horrific conditions in these homes, stuff them in these homes, and with little water, little food, until they come and get them to distribute them throughout the rest of the country. Sometimes they then hold them hostage at these stash houses, and it becomes a hostage case where they will not get released until they get an additional payout by the family members to be released. And it's happening. I mean, the statistic from the Border Patrol chief down in the valley yesterday, they've had 384 stash houses detected. Just in McAllen area, 384 stash houses. They're encountering 2,400 illegal aliens a day. They had 600 positive COVID cases in the last 2 weeks. 40 patrol agents, Border Patrol agents have tested positive. 5, as I speak to you, are in the hospital right now, 2 under critical condition because they continue to be exposed with the COVID. We still haven't even talked about COVID and the impact that it's had in our country and what it's done to us. Yet we are, as U.S. citizens, get restricted. But if you're an illegal alien, coming from another country, there's no restrictions. You could come right in and bring the virus with you.
What's the going price?
The to be brought over and smuggled about $4,000. If you're from Mexico, Central America, it goes up the farther away you go. I've heard 12,000 if you're from Costa Rica, South America. Now, another subject that we haven't talked about is the special interest aliens that are coming in as well, and these are aliens that are coming from special interest countries that we have identified that have connections or
With
to terrorism. Correct. And so I've seen them in Mexico. I've interviewed them when I was there. People from Bangladesh, from Somalia, from Yemen, and we've caught some of them. Some we've caught in March 2 separate individuals from Yemen who were on the no-fly list, on the watch list, the terrorist watch list, that we caught that we're aware of. 11 Iranians caught in Arizona. These are the ones that we know about, but how many that we're not aware of have made entry into our country? And these are individuals that are now coming with a different agenda and a different ideology to come into our country, possibly cause us harm. The last thing I want to see is have one of those special interest aliens come through Mexico that we allowed in without any restrictions to come and cause us harm in our country.
What do you see or forecast by the end of this year, based on what you're seeing? And are we going to see an impact on crime rates?
There, right now, we're over 1 million people that we know of detected. The stat that they tell me, the border agents say that the gotaways that they refer to, the ones that are not detected, could be 2 or 3 times what the actual number of detected people are. So if we've detected over 1 million right now, we could be close to 2 or 3 million. But detected individuals are going to be, by the end of the year, over 2 million. And so the unknown number might be 4 or 5 million of people that have come in this country in 1 year illegally. What is it going to cause? It's a ripple effect. It's already happening. Every state is going to become a border state. There's going to be an impact in the criminal justice system. There's going to be an impact in our school systems around our country. And there's going to be an impact in our healthcare systems. A lot of these individuals that come are coming with health conditions. A lot of them, education problems. A lot of them don't read or write Spanish alone. Forget English. They're illiterate in Spanish. A lot of them don't even speak. They speak a different dialect. A lot of special needs people in these kids.
Well, what about them just working for the cartels?
That's right. And so a lot of them, I've heard directly from the agents that are being taken on under credit. So they don't have the $4,000 or $5,000 to pay the cartel, and the cartel says, fine, but you're going to Chicago. Guess what? You will be pushing the fentanyl until you pay off that debt. Kind of an indentured servitude kind of situation. And absolutely it's happening. We have these individuals working for the cartel everywhere in our country, everywhere, and 40 countries abroad.
What's the reach of the cartels internationally? What do you see? What do you see coming to other countries? Or is it already there?
It's already there. They have a significant impact. I worked in Europe. I worked in Spain. And I could tell you, it's a significant, these guys are there. They distribute their drugs everywhere. They're part of their money's part of the world banking system. The money goes south and it comes back north into the banking system. The money laundering aspect of it is out of control. And that's how these guys enrich themselves with the money laundering aspect of it.
Well, if you were king for a day, how would you stop it? Or president for the day?
The number one thing I would do is designate them as foreign terrorist organizations. That would immediately allow the U.S. federal government to seize their assets and freeze their assets.
Which they have significant amounts in this country, and they live here.
And that's their ideology. A lot of people, I get a little pushback. Well, they're not ISIS, they're not the Taliban or Al-Qaeda because they have a different ideology. I don't care what the cartel's ideology is. Their ideology is money and power. But what they do to get that power is probably sometimes worse than what ISIS does. And we've talked about the violence and what they do. Hit them where it hurts. Hit them financially. Take their monies out. Now, what it does also, it brings a lot of different resources. That designation brings Department of Defense resources. It brings, now you nab that person that's working at the gang that works for the Sinaloa cartel in Chicago. Well, guess what? Sinaloa is a terrorist organization. Just like if you started working for ISIS right now, if you start talking to a member of ISIS, you're going to get a knock at the door by the FBI.
Right.
Well, the same thing would happen if you're working for the Sinaloa cartel, and the Sinaloa cartel is a foreign terrorist organization. You get picked up because you're now working for a terrorist organization, and the rules are not the same. You're going to prison or you're going to Guantanamo Bay.
Well, it seems common sense that we need to do this. What is the resistance? I mean, we've spent billions fighting Al Qaeda and the Taliban in Afghanistan. Why is it so difficult to make this decision, this policy decision?
Geography. I think the Mexico being right next to us, trade has a significant impact as to why it hasn't been done. But we can't afford it not to be done anymore. And that's not just one of the solutions that I would do. There's others. And you talk about securing the border. It could be secured overnight. It's just that no one has ever wanted to do it, either party. They never really wanted to do it because there's a lot of other money, other trade, and other issues that they think are more important than that. But let me tell you, this issue of border security is a national security issue, and it's a public safety issue. And unless we do something about it, we're going to have people suffering and become victims of crime that they had never been, because at the hands of illegal aliens, which thousands of them have already felt that in this country, that nobody thinks about them, but thousands of people have died at the hands of illegal aliens. I represent this group called the Remembrance Project, that they do that. They're a voice for these families, these angel moms and angel dads that people forget about them. They have been victims at the hands of illegal aliens. Well, when you get more and more of those, because you will, throughout the United States, I hope it doesn't take that for people to wake up. I don't want, that's too late when you become a victim of a crime at the hands of one of these individuals. Let's wake up now. Let's get in touch with your local elected officials. A lot of people think, well, it's the federal government issue. And it is. But all politics lead down to your local politics. Get involved with your local community. Who's your representative that represents your neighborhood? Go to a city council meeting. Go to your county commissioner meetings. Go to a school board. Look at what's going on with our school boards. Be involved in your community so you could have an impact and a voice from there to your state rep up to the next level of government.
Yeah, I see in some of the videos, there appear to be so many young women coming, and I can't imagine they've got a big skill set. Are they going to end up being victims?
There's no jobs for them. They, when I was down in Del Rio, I could tell you over 90% of them were pregnant, and they were at a late stage of pregnancy from Venezuela, from Haiti, from Congo, Uganda, Sierra Leone. I can't tell you 100%, but over 90% of them were pregnant.
Are they trying to time the delivery
Absolutely.
for the U.S. or
Absolutely.
the citizenship?
Yeah, absolutely. Hands down. They have, and most of these people that I saw in the Del Rio sector they had means. They had money. They were well dressed. They had money. Some purchased vehicles in Del Rio to drive themselves to Florida.
So your parents were immigrants from Mexico. What's the difference between then and now?
Well, law and order. My parents did it the legal way. There is a path to do it legally. My parents came to this country, and I'll tell you what the word that I use in that book, that it's a bad word under this administration. It's called assimilation. And it's a huge word. Right now, under the Biden administration, you cannot write the word assimilation or illegal alien in any official document. But I purposely write it because those are official terms. But assimilation is very important. And I'm glad you asked me that question, because my parents came here and they assimilated to this country by working hard. We're God-fearing people. We were law and order people. My parents didn't come and commit crimes. They just wanted to you're looking at me, I'm the product of the American dream, and I'm going to do the same for my children. There's a right way to do it. And I'm all for that path, and I'm for the legal immigration path of it. But what we're seeing right now is nowhere near that. And I'll be the first one to say the legal path also needs to be looked at, because we have good people wanting to come into this country that are waiting 13, 14 years to do it, and that's also wrong. But you cannot be putting them aside and allowing and opening the gate for these thousands of people to come in illegally when they've never been vetted.
Well, and we also have a lot of good people already in the country, hardworking and everything, and that's not addressed.
That's not addressed. No one wants to address that, and it's a big issue. That you got a doc. I talk about DACA in my book as well. I mean, I've seen these. I've seen these issues for many years, and I address those issues. And I think it takes a lot of courage, finally, for our elected officials to step up and take a hard look at it.
Do you see a tipping point coming?
Gosh, I feel like I've been on the top of that tip for a long
Yeah.
time, and unfortunately, I don't see it. It is, I talk to a lot of groups and a lot of people, and they're unaware. They're unaware of what's happening and the impact that it's going to have. And I want that tip. I wanted to spill over. I want the information to get out.
Well, besides the book, you've got your kind of own organization. Tell us where they should go to gain awareness about what you're doing.
Yeah, they could follow me, agentunderfirebook.com. That's my website. And if they follow me on Facebook and Instagram, they'll see my visits to the border, my interviews that I do on the news, and the awareness that I bring.
Victor Avila, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Again, the book is Agent Under Fire, A Murder and a Manifesto. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much for having me.